Ladies and gentlemen, we want you to stand and we want you to make some noise.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's go racing here at Knoxville.
Only the best go 3 abreast. It is showtime at Williams Grove Speedway.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here at Eldora Speedway, it's showtime!
You got them for a rep. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the world of Outlaws.
It's time to sit back, relax, and enjoy because, ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime!
Set to do battle for 30 laps. The green flag is waving.
Hello and welcome to the pre-race edition of Winged Nation here, all in the courtesy of our own homes. Obviously an interesting, unique situation we're currently living in, but we're so glad that you tuned into Winged Nation. I'm Ashley Stremme, and joining me I have Erin Evernham. And like I said, a really unique situation that we're currently living in. Unfortunately, we're not getting to go to the dirt tracks with our friends on the weekends and, get that dirt in our french fries and in our beer. But awesome that Fox Sports 1 has stepped up to the plate and brought iRacing along so that we can watch sprint car racing on our TVs tonight at 8 p.m. for the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car iRacing Invitational at the virtual dirt track at Charlotte. Erin, a really unique situation we're kind of dealing with here, but really cool to see what's going on.
It really is, and I think before we get into talking about racing and getting to watch virtual racing, we need to give a shout out to, unfortunately, what people are going through, all those that have been affected by the coronavirus, all the people on the front line, the nurses, the doctors, the grocery store workers, the truck drivers, everyone that's really affected. So yeah, this is all fun and games. We got to talk racing a little bit, which is fun for us, but just wanted to mention all those people first.
Absolutely. We wouldn't be able to do what we're doing right now without all of them and taking care of the people that they have been along the way. And really cool stuff, though. Cool show tonight here at 8 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. And joining us is none other than Fox Sports 1 host Adam Alexander. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Erin. It's great to be with you, and we're certainly excited about what we're going to do tonight.
How unique is this for you guys? Obviously, you guys have been doing a lot of the virtual stuff with the NASCAR side of things, but now with the World of Outlaws and the sprint cars and, of course, the late models tonight.
Well, full disclosure, for the two of you and all your fans who can relate to that driver that pulls into the pits late and doesn't get any practice and goes out and barely makes a qualifying run and then basically shows up to race in his heat, that's kind of what we're doing tonight. I mean, we don't have a lot of preparation. We don't have a tremendous baseline on this. It's come together very last minute, as I think, everyone in various communities across the country right now are calling audibles on how they handle their business. And we're certainly no different at Fox and FS1. And the last couple of weekends, we've enjoyed great success with the iRacing programs on the NASCAR side. Wanted to do something during the week. First up is the World of Outlaws, and we certainly hope it comes across tonight like the NASCAR stuff has, because I think that's generated a lot of excitement and also created great distraction for all of those at home that are thinking about the coronavirus and dealing with the circumstances that surround us.
Absolutely, and we really appreciate you giving us, the dirt people, a chance to be on FS1. It's a huge opportunity really for dirt racing. What is your knowledge of dirt racing? I know you mentioned that you're kind of gotten thrown into this, but on top of that, I know you follow it a little bit, but your real bread and butter is obviously NASCAR.
Yeah, it's been a while for me, Erin. I started my career as an announcer at a small track in Indiana, Tri-State Speedway in Hobstadt. That's where I started racing, a quarter-mile dirt track. A handful of guys that will be racing tonight, certainly have competed there a number of times over the years. And, it's interesting. Johnny Gibson, the voice of the World of Outlaws, he and I called an outlaw race together there in the late 90s. When I was working for Tommy and Loris Helfrich and announcing their races. And, of course, we all know, Jeff Gordon started on the dirt racing sprint cars. For Clint Boyer, who will be a part of our coverage, he's always been a late model guy. So I think when you look at our broadcast team, even though right now for many of us it's all about NASCAR, each of us laid the foundation of our career at a dirt track somewhere, or maybe multiple dirt tracks. So that's going to be one cool aspect, I think, for all of us involved.
That's absolutely incredible. I wasn't aware that you actually started there in Hobstadt. Really cool stuff. And like you said, NASCAR is really trying to get into their grassroots and really tap into that. And with what you're saying, you know, working with guys like Clint, obviously we all know Clint and his personality and what he brings to the table with owning late model teams, as well as Jeff Gordon and his sprint car background. What can we really expect to see from you guys tonight? Obviously, it's new, like you said, but I mean, obviously you've worked with these guys before in the past, but I'm sure it's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Well, I think when you look at Jeff and Clint, they are two guys that are very invested, Ashley, in various forms of racing. Even though we know them now as NASCAR superstars, and certainly Jeff is a Hall of Famer, I think when you follow them on social media, when you talk to them in person, if you're a race fan, you understand that while they spend a good majority of their time focused on NASCAR, they think about the other aspects of racing. I know Jeff has spent the last couple of years going out to the Chili Bowl, so he is very interested in the grassroots levels, and that certainly would include the short tracks around the country where we're racing on dirt. So I think they will bring a very interesting perspective. And the other thing that they're going to bring tonight is the angle of the fan. Because they're not involved in this day to day, I think the energy and enthusiasm that they will bring will be very similar to the race fans that are embracing this idea, because it is new and different, and they kind of get a front row seat.
Adam, you've been in the TV world for a long time and covered a number of races, and there's so much preparation that goes into it. You need to know the teams, what's going on with the rules. Virtual racing, how do you prepare for a TV show?
Well, you know, it's challenging because for many of the racers that will be competing tonight, they don't have a great foundation of statistical information when it comes to virtual races. And so you really don't have a ton to go on that is valid in how it relates to what we'll see tonight. We are going to be racing on the virtual dirt track at Charlotte, so you can look a little bit about what they've done there, whether it was racing for real in a late model or a World of Outlaws sprint car, and that might help you a little bit. I think tonight's focus is more about, you know, telling stories and also introducing fans to what this kind of racing is all about. You know, it's new to the drivers, so it's certainly new to the fans, and it's never been on a platform like this. And so I think tonight is really going to serve two purposes. One, it's going to be great for all the competitors to get some recognition maybe that they wouldn't normally get, but it's also great for the fans to learn more about iRacing and what it's all about.
That's a really great point, Adam. And to really kind of house on that, especially, you know, we haven't really seen dirt car racing on a platform like Fox Sports 1. How did this really kind of come about with all of you guys?
Well, I think it all started with Jeff Gordon, because Jeff knew that we were entering this time of uncertainty, and he understands the TV business enough to know that we need content. And right now, live content is so hard to come by. Jeff is the one that spearheaded this, being a guy that's raced those sprint cars. Fox executives said, let's give it a shot, and we'll see how it goes tonight.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you, Adam, for joining us. We know you've got a lot to do before we get ready for this invitational, but thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome.
Joining us next on the Wing Nation pre-race show is Kevin Swindell, owner of Swindell Speed Labs and a former winner at the real dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Thanks for joining us, Kevin.
Yeah, it's good to be on.
So what has it been like? You've run the last few races and been really competitive. Just talk about, for our listeners, for our viewers, what it's like to race virtually.
It's definitely different. You know, it takes a different kind of set of skills. You kind of have to teach yourself some things that, you know, it doesn't have the feel factor, a lot of visual cues on things. And so it's been a little different. I mean, I've done it for a long time, but obviously doing it with the throttle stuff and brake with my hands has been a learning curve a little bit. But for the most part, it's been pretty good. We've been really competitive, just had some bad breaks the last couple races.
And Kevin, the fans have absolutely been loving it. Obviously, to hear and say that Kevin Swindell is back sprint car racing, I think the fans have really jumped on board with this and are extremely excited about it. But iRacing has been something you've been doing for a while now, but now to see it really go to the platform of Fox Sports 1 tonight, I mean, what's that mean for you?
It's huge. You know, we've you know, Speed Lab's been a big proponent of all the esports stuff for the last few years, and you know, really pushed the the other pro series, the real pro series that they run on Monday nights now. And, I actually won the late model championship last year. So we've had a lot of fun with it, and to really bring it to this next level is big. And, especially we brought some partners in and some, real life sponsors in to this and keep trying to grow it more and more. So, excited to really get it to a broader stage. And, for me to kind of get to race at this level again is neat too.
Kevin, there was a really neat article put out today about you being back racing and racing with the hand controls. And you talked a lot about you using a sim that was made by SimAbility. And I thought it was just really neat. I followed along Robert Wickens trying to race in the IndyCar race this past weekend. It's such an opportunity for people who, have disabilities or whatever to be able to race. Talk about these sims that you've been working on.
Yeah, I've had this one for a few years. The guys at SimAbility do some neat work, and I think it started out as just a project for some family of his, and kind of snowballed into a lot of people needing it. And I think there's a lot more people out there than you think that would like to still do this and can't because of really no system. So it's been good. It's probably not a perfect system, and he's trying to make them better. There's tons of different ways to do it, from rings and clickers and different things to try to do it. And I think everybody has their own version of it, but it works well for me. I got an actual sprint car throttle spring hooked around it now to try to make it a little easier to get some tension on the throttle to do it. But it works good enough, and I get in trouble at times because of kind of trying to keep up and move my hands that much and throttle at the same time. But as long as I keep myself settled down, I'm usually okay.
I love it, because we recently went through the same thing through our modified business. We outfitted a car for a handicapped gentleman, and working with him and his throttle needs and wants, to be able to do everything that's necessary is incredible. So how much input do you have, when you make this happen with SimAbility? Are they talking to you about what you want or what your needs are? Or they just kind of produce something and then you kind of adjust it to your wants?
We did a little bit. He doesn't have a lot of bandwidth to really build the stuff. So, really being able to change a whole lot was rare. But, once I got mine, we talked about some things of how to make, the next one's better. And I've kind of been waiting for him to get through some prototyping phase of the one kind of like Wickens has to maybe upgrade eventually. So I think Max Pappas is going to start helping him as well to create some more stuff. And I think that'll make it better. So actually, as soon as I saw the one that they posted about Wickens, I text Max and I'm like, I need one of these as soon as you can do it. So hopefully we'll be able to make it better and start mass producing them to an extent. I know it seemed like when I dealt with him, he was just always backlogged on people that wanted stuff. And it's just a side gig for him. So it wasn't something that he was, really able to do full time. So hopefully Max and those guys can get it on a bigger scale and really get some stuff pumped out.
What a great story. Now, Kevin, you won at the dirt track at Charlotte. I think you were like the youngest to ever win a World of Outlaw race at the time. How close is the virtual track to the real track?
It's pretty similar. Obviously, it's been like 14 years since I actually ran on it. I guess I ran on it like 2011 or so, one race. But it's close. I feel like in the game you don't quite get the sensation of banking and things as extreme as they are in real life. Like a lot of places tend to feel a lot flatter, and I think some of it may be the fact that the cars don't tilt, and obviously your body doesn't either. So, but yeah, it's similar. Obviously, they talked about at Chili Bowl how they had to go back to iRacing's measurements just to get the Chili Bowl back right this year because of, they had better measurements than Chili Bowl themselves did. So obviously the places are scaled, dead on. So it's close, you know what I mean? And they've worked to get the racetracks to slick off and some things better. And I think as we go on and the more that this kind of comes on a bigger scale, they'll put more effort even into making the dirt better.
Kevin, you mentioned earlier that you actually own 3 iRacing teams. Now, someone like me who doesn't really understand this virtual sim world, what really goes into owning an iRacing team?
I mean, really, there's not a lot to it. It's more or less just gathering up some guys to kind of represent you in a way, and there's no major paperwork or anything like that. It's more or less just, will these guys put your name on it? So a lot of the guys that we had were friends from years ago, from before even iRacing really had anything going, from R Factor and things like that we used to race, and kind of started it that way. And we've kind of grown as it's gone, and added some late model guys and now some road course guys, and just keep trying to increase it. And like I said before, we brought some real partners in like Racing Electronics and HMS and K1 and Bell into the fold as sponsors for these guys, and keep trying to get them more stuff and get them bought in and get them excited about it, and really hoping eventually we can get one of those charters for the Cup Series, Pro Series as well.
Very neat. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. It's been neat for all of us, for all the fans of our sport, to be cheering for you again on track. So best of luck tonight.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me, and hope everybody enjoys the show tonight.
So earlier today, my husband, Ray Evernham, NASCAR Hall of Famer, took the time at our shop to do a little explanation of a sim.
Hey, Ray Evernham here, or Mr. Erin Crocker, as many of you folks from Wing Nation know me as. But Erin wanted me to show you what a simulator looks like. This is our simulator. This is where we play around, learn some road racing, and do some things. But lots of different versions of this. This is kind of a middle of the road. You can get really high-end ones that move around, actually give the motion of the car, or you can have something as simple as a pedal and a steering wheel that goes on your desk. But the key is having the iRacing. You can also have the headset, talk to other drivers, listen to the engine in the car, several different racetracks. It's really realistic. Right now we've got Knoxville up on there, and you can see that's what it does look like. It is really realistic going around the racetrack, and I can tell you that it's a lot cheaper when Erin wrecks these cars than she did when she wrecked my cars at Knoxville. Okay, so Erin said, take some laps. Let's take a look around. And I can tell you that the people from iRacing do a great job. When they scan these tracks, they try and get everything exact. I've driven around Knoxville. I know that the fence, the guardrail, what it's like pulling out of the racetrack is the same, right down to the little bits of clay, the concrete, the grass, the grandstand, everything. It is really realistic. So let's put the headset on and take a drive around. Now I'm putting the headset on only because I can hear the motor running. You won't be able to hear it, but I could talk to other drivers or other people if they were hooked up. Let's see if I can make a lap. All right. Pull out just like we do. Got pushed off. Picking up speed, we'll do a qualifying run. Wide open. Yeah, just like old times. That's why Erin drives and I work on them.
Thank you, Ray. A little bit of abuse in there, and I always think he forgets to mention how many cars he wrecked in his career, but we appreciate him taking the time to make that video for us.
We're back here watching Winged Nation pre-race before the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car iRacing Invitational at the virtual dirt track at Charlotte. Be sure to tune in after the race. Steve Post will have the post-race edition on our Winged Nation Facebook group. So make sure you check that out. And joining us now, we have two incredible guests, David Gravel and Ron Katz. David, we'll start with you. Pretty cool stuff, especially, you guys have been iRacing for a while now, but to actually get to the level of Fox Sports 1, how cool is it for you to be able to really get to this platform and be able to kind of showcase sprint car racing, even though it's not really the way you'd like to do it, but having the opportunity?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's an opportunity of a lifetime for World of Outlaws, and happy we could be a part of it. And my good friend Jeff Gordon, FS1 there, was really pulling to get sprint cars on there, and was able to get it done. So I'm really happy there's interest on iRacing's behalf and Fox. So I'm really, really excited because I think our racing is a little bit more exciting on iRacing than the asphalt cars. So I'm really looking forward to it.
And Ron, NHRA legend, you love dirt racing. I see you at the Chili Bowl. You used to do the Prelude with Tony Stewart. Just talk about first your love for dirt racing.
It's always been there, and luckily, I guess with the job that I have for a real job, it's opened up those doors. When I raced for Don the Snake Prudhomme, it was cool because I got to go race and test for the iRock series, and then my passion for dirt, I got to go race with Tony Stewart, Dan Wasowski when he drove for him, and Chili Bowl a couple times. Got to drive World Outlaws car. Didn't race, but got to make laps in it. And every chance we got, I'd be out there with Clint Boyer or any of those guys just running any kind of dirt late model stuff. And then, of course, the Prelude to the Dream is when really that sort of took off for me. And getting to do that every year was something I look forward to. And to this day, I mean, every year I run into Tony somewhere. I'm like, dude, you got to start the Prelude up again. That was so much fun.
The Prelude was a lot of fun. I wish you would bring it back. I agree. But David, you talk about that asphalt stuff, if you will. But you actually got to help a guy, Kurt Busch. He obviously didn't have the sim, and so you allowed him to kind of use yours there for the first race. Were you able to learn anything from him and what kind of the asphalt side of things does on the sim racing to help with the sprint car racing?
I'm not really sure. It was his first time ever, so I think I learned a lot of things not to do. We used our resets really early in the race, but we were both learning as we were going, and I was making laps and he was making laps, and we were trying to get all the settings right and what all the fast guys were doing. So it was a lot of fun. He lives about 15 minutes away from me, and it worked out really good for him. And then the following week, he got a WR1 sim just like me, and now he's all up and running. So, and ran 10th this past week. So big improvement from week one. But not that I'm saying asphalt racing is not as exciting, but I think just a shorter track and more action here with the dirt, I think should be a little bit more amusing for TV stuff. So we'll see what happens.
David, when you mention resets, for us that know nothing about the sim world, what are the rules for tonight's race? Like, you get so many resets. Is there damage control? And how does it work qualifying? Tell us a little bit about the actual race structure.
All right, so I don't know too much, but I read up on email about 10 minutes ago, so bear with me. I saw that there's 2 car resets, so that means damage is on. I see it's a 30-lap race, but from what I'm hearing, it's like a pill draw starting position. I know we get a 15-minute practice session on a totally fresh racetrack, and then that's going to carry over into RA main. So it's going to be a little bit different dynamic for us from what we've been practicing and what we've been doing. So we're going to have to try to make the right calls in the race car and go from there.
Now, Ron, obviously you're used to, as you said, your real job going straight. Now you're thrown into the turns, but we know that, we've had you on the show numerous times, and your love for sprint car racing, and obviously you've been iRacing for quite a while. I'm just curious, because our next guest is actually Brad Sweet, your Napa teammate, if you will. Is there a nice little bet with Brad, or a wager with Brad? Because we know that Brad isn't real big into iRacing, and like I said, we'll talk to him next. But is there a wager between you two Napa guys?
No. It's I feel a little bad that Brad hasn't got a really good setup, or at least a decent setup. He's borrowing somebody's to get into it. I know what that feels like. I ran an old $200 wheel for a long time. I could never figure out why. I was off just a couple of tenths from people. And then I got a decent wheel, and I thought, oh, okay, now I'm in the game a little bit. So we all know how Brad is. He knows how to get up on the wheel. I'm hoping that, he'll get more comfortable. I would never bet against him. And the way I look at it is, I love doing it, but I don't expect to go out and go right to the front. And I'm honestly trying to bring back the car in one piece as I would in real life. And that's the cool thing about iRacing. I've been involved with them beta testing and since the beginning in 2008. So it's always been, the reality is I feel like I'm actually more nervous, but I feel like I'm showing up at an outlaw race and trying to qualify for it. So I've practiced a lot. I've gotten help from people. Dylan Hauser was just on with me a few minutes ago, kind of coaching me on some things. And if I can finish ahead of Brad, that would be the ultimate feather in my cap, just to say I did, no matter whether it was iRacing or not. But he's one of my favorite teammates. Great guy. We all love him. So I'm excited. I get on a track with my teammate Brad Sweet, so it's kind of cool.
Ron, how important is this opportunity for Napa? No one can go to the racetrack right now. There's not a lot going on. But having you and Brad on, you have such a wonderful relationship with Napa. How important is it to give him this exposure on FS1?
Well, yeah, Erin, it's huge. Who would have thought that it was going to turn out that our Sundays and our Wednesday nights were going to be tuning in to watch live racing, whether it's iRacing or not, it doesn't matter. It's still, and just you got 1 million fans that tuned in Sunday. It's crazy. So it's big. It's not as big as normally show up at a race. Obviously, we all know that, but it's still big. I just got numbers back from our social media the last week and a half, and the outreach was unbelievable considering what we're doing. So their name's still out there. Napa is running an in-car cockpit view of both mine and Brad's tonight on their YouTube page, so fans can click on their computer and actually watch the cockpit view from our Napa sprint cars during the race while they're watching on Fox Sports 1. So that's just, it's cool to have a sponsor that loves doing that. So the fact that they're going to spread it out with their YouTube stuff is going to be pretty cool too.
That is incredible. It's amazing the virtual world that we're living in currently. Unfortunately, we can't be at the track, but it is absolutely a unique time. And when sponsors step up like that, that's huge. Speaking of this virtual world, David, I don't know much about this sim racing. I have more laps in a real sprint car than I do on a simulator. But David, talk about the feel of what it is compared to, like tonight, the dirt track at Charlotte. Is it real? I mean, how much is the feel of it? We talked to Kevin Swindell a little bit about it, and he talked about how the Chili Bowl had to actually reference iRacing to get the track exactly how it's supposed to be. I mean, is there a whole lot of feel that really goes behind it, and it feels like it does when you're actually sitting in the seat?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with what kind of setup you have. If you have maybe something like Denny Hamlin's, it might feel pretty close to realistic. If you have a $200, Logitech wheel that you've had for years, and then it just attached to your desk, maybe not. But, when you're in a real racing seat with real pedals, with real feel, and the steering is pretty realistic. What I could say is it's probably just as difficult as real life when the track gets slick. I mean, it's really, really difficult to make laps on a slick racetrack, and it takes throttle control, a lot of finesse, a lot of patience. So I wouldn't say real life is either harder or not. It's just going to be impossible to replicate what exactly real life is like. You don't have that sensation of G-force and fear and all those things, but iRacing's done an amazing job, and it's the closest thing to, and it's the best thing out there.
Awesome. Well, David Gravel, Ron Katz, thank you for joining us. We wish you the best of luck, and we'll be watching here at 8 o'clock on Fox Sports 1.
Thank you. One thing, the NHRA, let's get a video game out. Let's get on iRacing. Let's get some drag racing on here. I'm sure they could do a really, really good job.
We're working on it. It'll be fun.
Let's get her done.
I love it. Coming from David Gravel, who loves to do some drag racing on his free time, and of course the drag racer himself, Ron Katz. Again, thanks for joining us, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Joining us now on the Wing Nation pre-race show is the reigning World of Outlaws champion, Brad Sweet. Brad, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
So I hear you're pretty new to this whole iRacing thing. Tell us how this journey has quickly started, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been so busy with real racing that I didn't think, I had much time to get involved with the whole iRacing world. I'm a fan of it, and I think it's really cool. But when I get home, I don't think my wife wants me to to spend too much time doing more racing. So I hadn't done it, but obviously under these unfortunate circumstances, we have a lot of extra time. And then with the Fox Sports 1 putting us on TV, I felt like that was a great place to showcase our drivers, our series, and obviously Napa is a great sponsor of ours.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Brad. but I really want to know what your timetable looks like. I mean, are we talking 2 weeks? Are we talking 2 days? What does your iRacing career really look like, and how have you progressed so quickly?
I have not progressed very well, and it's only 2 days. I started on Monday, basically. I borrowed a setup from a friend, and I've had a lot of great people trying to help me and get there's so much to it all, the setups of the cars, the setup of your actual wheel and pedals and things like that. So it's all new and foreign to me, but once you kind of get in and get comfortable, it's still racing and really competitive. So I think we all need that a little bit in our lives right now.
You sure do. Brad, you mentioned setups. So on the iRacing with the sprint cars, you can change the setups? Because I thought I heard watching the NASCAR races that they kind of had the cars all set up similar. I know nothing about this world. I'm as much of a rookie as you are. So with the sprint cars, you can change your setups?
Yeah, they're allowing us to do our own setups in the sprint cars, and I think the sprint cars are just a lot different than the stock cars. I think the stock cars are a lot more finicky with the setups, so I think they don't want anyone to have a crazy unfair advantage. In the sprint cars, I think there's lots of different setups that do just fine. So it allows you to kind of get the car to drive better for what you're looking for.
Well, the good news is, Brad, is Timmy Hill did really good in the NASCAR race last weekend with his $200 setup. So even though you don't have the huge mass product of those sims, it sounds like you still have the opportunity to be competitive. We just spoke with your Napa teammate Ron Katz, and we asked if there was any wagers between you guys, and he said there was.
I'm definitely not betting on myself here. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think that, like I said, everybody needs a little entertainment. I know that we definitely need something to grasp on to make us feel a little bit more normal, and we're used to entertaining people. So whether it's winning races or just having a good time, at the end of the day, I hope it's a good race night. I hope that it's a good show. Obviously, with these things, it can be there's a lot of moving parts that can make them not work perfectly. But hopefully, it all just goes well, and the viewers get to see what sprint car racing is all about, and hopefully it leads to some of those fans coming to the real dirt tracks.
For sure, that would be great. Brad, we talked to Ron about how important this event is for Napa. You guys aren't at the track, you're not getting the exposure for them, but this is a great opportunity. But aside from that, I want to ask you about how important it is for the World of Outlaws to get a chance, even though it's virtual and it's on Sims, to be on Fox Sports 1 during the week at 8 o'clock, kind of prime time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, my hat's off to the World of Outlaws, and hats off to Fox Sports 1 for taking a chance on us. We really appreciate it. We feel like our product's great, the real life product, but the only thing that we can show right now is the virtual side of it. So that's where we're at. And I think that fans just being able to maybe that have been thinking about going to a sprint car race or wondering what they are, at least they can kind of get an idea. Obviously, it's a lot different in real life, and the real life cars are much different than this, but it gives them an idea, and hopefully it'll leave some people talking about it and thinking about actually coming out and really seeing what it's all about.
Brad, you talk about those real life cars, and I want to talk about that just real quick here. We are in uncharted territories, obviously, with what we're dealing with in the world. Obviously, racing has dealt with Mother Nature throughout the years, especially through this time. So we're used to maybe not being racing as much because of rainouts. But now we're dealing with something that's completely different. I mean, obviously, you're sitting atop of the points. Obviously, we hope to go back racing sooner than later. But really, big picture, I mean, what is your thoughts on everything when we get back to race? Not necessarily what's your timetable when we get back to racing, but getting back to racing and how that's going to be a transition for you now that you've kind of been sitting dormant, if you will, for the last several weeks.
Yeah, it definitely is made me realize I'm not anywhere close to being ready for retirement. Being at home is nice. You got to spend some time with your family and do some things that you normally don't get to do. And we are always on the go. So it's definitely been an adjustment. But it's the same for everyone, and there's a lot worse going on than us not being able to have a few races. So, our goal is still going to stay the same. We obviously have a great race team, a great sponsor, and hopefully in a month or two we'll all be looking back, and this will just be a little tick in time, that we kind of got through. And if everyone keeps coming together, obviously, and then kind of following the guidelines, I think we'll be racing much sooner than later, obviously. So we're kind of just riding it out. Obviously, it's like I said, it's unfortunate, and but we want to win races once we go back racing. And luckily for us, obviously, hopefully we get racing before June. We really don't miss the prime of our season. June, July, August, September, a lot of big events, a lot of great races in those months. So our fingers are crossed that we can kind of get through all this and get back racing and still have, at least a half of a World of Outlaws season and still be able to get quite a few races. I know there's a lot of, openings later in the season to kind of maybe fill in some of these gaps. And I'm sure the Outlaws will do the best to get as many of these shows in as possible. And obviously, we'll all be ready to race by then.
Yeah, you definitely will all be ready to race. But I'm sure your daughter's enjoying all her daddy-daughter time right now.
Absolutely, yeah, yep.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Brad. We wish you the best tonight with all your experience that you have with iRacing and simulators. But just have fun tonight.
Yeah, thank you guys. Hopefully it's a good show. And here we go. We're getting ready to start a little practice.
We're back. We're so glad that you joined us here for Wing Nation's pre-race to the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car iRacing Invitational at the Dirt Track virtual at Charlotte. So cool to catch up with these guys, Erin. Sure, it's a different kind of time that we're living in right at the moment, but chatting with these guys and still seeing their love and enthusiasm for racing is bar none.
Absolutely, and I think for us media fans, it's something to really look forward to. There's nothing on television right now that's a live sporting event, live competition. Racing has a wonderful little niche with iRacing to be able to do this. So it was great to catch up with all the guys. What are your thoughts on the race now? You got to pick?
Man, I don't know this virtual stuff. I don't know a whole lot about it. I'm new to this whole sim racing thing. So no, I don't really have a pick. If it was, if we were actually at the dirt track for the race, I probably would. But virtual, I think anybody is a shoe. I mean, it's all about how obviously you qualify just like it is in real life. But when it boils right down to it, anybody's possible. But yeah, I don't know. How about you?
I have no clue. I don't really follow iRacing in general. I'm just starting. I'm a new fan of it. But I think we're going to see maybe a sleeper winner, like someone who has a lot of practice on simulators is going to show up these World of Outlaw guys. So I think it'll be entertaining to watch. But I think it was a great show. And just want to say thank you to Adam Alexander, Kevin Swindell, David Gravel, Ron Capps, and Brad Sweet for joining us on our first virtual show for our pre-race. Ashley, what do you think?
Absolutely. And thank you, fans, for tuning in. Obviously, this is a new uncharted territory, and we're just so glad that you guys have tuned into Wing Nation to join these guys and hear a little bit about what they've got going on. And afterwards, be sure to tune into our Wing Nation Facebook page group. Steve Post will have the post-race, no pun intended, the post-race recap of what's going to happen. So be sure to tune in. And of course, obviously, always at wingnation.com to check out our apparel, what we've got going on our YouTube channel. We've got so much going on. But it's good to be back with our sprint car fans. I don't know about you, Erin, but it's incredible to finally be able to chat with everybody.
It is. So we'll look forward to watching with you all tonight, the World of Outlaws on FS1 at 8 o'clock.
Watch Wing Nation Saturday mornings on MAV TV. You can also find Wing Nation on wingnation.com or your favorite podcast provider. Wing Nation is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.